Welcome to another edition of Inside Guyana. Today, on behalf of our cameraman, Ravi, and our producer, Prakash, I would like to ask you to join me also in welcoming our special guest today on the program Inside Guyana. Today we have an attorney at law practicing in New York State but of Guyanese origin. He was born in Guyana. He has been a very prominent political activist in New York State and New York City. He has been a candidate more than once for city council positions in New York City. He has been involved in the nationalist movement in Guyana in 1953. He also was a member of the People's Progressive Party, and recently he had changed to support the coalition, the APNU+AFC Coalition. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome to the program Inside Guyana, Mr. Collin Moore, attorney at law. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Rudy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Collin, I understand that you've been involved in a lot of activities here in New York State and Guyana as well. I'm sure you've heard about the recent developments in Guyana, where we had a new coalition government installed. And you've also probably heard about the Guyana-Venezuela border issue. I know as an attorney you've been involved in civil rights activities, civil rights, representing people in civil rights laws and areas and violations, and immigration also laws, and in the criminal field as well. So, are you aware of the Guyana-Venezuela border issue, sir?
Yes, thank you very much, Rudy. As you can see from my hair, I've been around for quite a few years, you know. I am one of the senior citizens, so to speak, but fairly active. I have been involved in many types of activities, both in Guyana and in the United States here. I was involved in the nationalist movement in Guyana in the 1953 period.
Can you speak up a little bit, yeah?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, myself and UC Guyana are one of the few veterans who are still alive, who were part of that movement. And then when I came to the United States here, I became involved in the political movement. I ran twice for a city council in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. And I have recently been involved in the politics of the APNU+AFC Coalition. So I have seen many things. And then I mentioned I was part of the civil rights movement in the United States here. As a matter of fact, I visited South Carolina for some time and did some studies there. So I'd like to state that I was involved in a lot of very iconic movements: the nationalist movement in Guyana, the civil rights movement in the United States, and now the diaspora movement involving Guyana and the Guyanese diaspora here.
Thank you very much for that insight. The question was about Venezuela.
For the Venezuela border dispute.
I saw you wrote an article recently about the plus change, plus whatever more things to change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
And you were referring to the Guyana-Venezuela border issue.
Dispute. Yeah,
Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about that, please?
Right. The article is entitled Plus ça change, plus la même chose. It's in French. It means the more things change, the more they remain the same. And I was reflecting on the fact that this border dispute is nothing new. It has been with us since at the very dawn of our independence. Venezuela has made a claim on our territory, 2/3 of Guyana's territory, since 1899. There was an arbitral award issued in the United States in 1899. And Venezuela agreed to this award. But Venezuelan legislature ratified the award without dissent. And then when Guyana was about to get its independence, in 1962, Venezuela conveniently renewed this claim on Guyanese territory. And this matter has been like a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of the Guyanese people. Do you remember, as soon as we declared our independence, no sooner had we done that than Venezuelan artillery opened fire on the island of Ancocco, which is in the, I think it's in the Venamo River, Venamo and Cuyuni River. And they annexed the Guyanese part of that island. And since then, we have not had a moment of rest with Venezuela. Venezuela has renewed the claim over and over again, even though international lawyers have indicated that Venezuela has no basis for this claim. And recently, when a ship from ExxonMobil discovered substantial and significant quantities of oil in what is called the Stabroek Block, right, in what is called the EEZ, the Exclusive Economic Zone of Guyana, which is 200 nautical miles from the Guyanese shore. Then Venezuela renewed its claim. And incidentally, I understand that the people in Houston, the people in ExxonMobil, says that this amount of oil is significant and substantial. It will transform Guyana from an agricultural country, Rudy, into an oil and gas giant in the Western Hemisphere. It is so substantial. And for that reason, Venezuela has decided to renew its claim. And my fear is that Venezuela is going to use either military force or the threat of military force to enforce its claim. Because, as you know, it is a much more powerful military power than we are. So they very often, and the way they operate, they send their navy to stop ships. They've been doing that for years, like our trawlers that have been operating in Guyanese maritime zones. Venezuela has sent their navy to board these ships very often, and then they will tow the ships to the Venezuelan ports, and they will seize the catch, you know, the fish and shrimp and whatever, and they will seize the trawler and arrest the captain and the crew and sentence them to substantial periods of incarceration in Venezuelan prisons. They have been doing this for many, many years, and we have been very, very quiet about it. They do the same thing to Trinidadian ships and whatnot, but they have picked on Guyanese ships, and now that they're renewing the claims to the ownership of these resources, we're going to see a tremendous acceleration in the amount of ships, trawlers that are arrested by Venezuelan Navy. And no country, Rudy, can live under the constant threat of military force. We got to do something about it. And I have written to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and told him that we need to do two things. We need, first of all, to take Venezuela before the International Court of Justice and litigate these claims. And if Venezuela decides to contest, because, you know, a nation can decide not to recognize the jurisdiction of the ICG in certain matters, then we can ask them to set up an international tribunal, as they did in the case of the dispute that we had with Suriname, and let that international tribunal adjudicate and hand down a decision one way or the other. And while we are doing this, while we are litigating it, I have asked the Minister of Foreign Affairs to have the Guyana permanent representative to the United Nations, when the General Assembly reconvenes in September, I think it's about September 15, the middle of September, and when all of these presidents and prime ministers and so forth are coming to the United Nations in New York, we should have our permanent representative introduce a resolution in the General Assembly condemning this action by President Nicolas Maduro, the action of May 27th, 2015, in which he claimed that this maritime region outside of Guyana belongs to Venezuela. It is called the Venezuelan Atlantic Coast. There is absolutely no basis for this in national or international law. And one of the good things, Rudy, is that I taught international law at Brooklyn College, so I am somewhat familiar with some of the concepts.
So, you think that Venezuela will attack Guyana and set up their borders on Guyana's territory?
No, they're not going to attack Guyana directly as they did in the case of Ankoko, because that will invite a lot of international condemnation. What they will do is they will launch a campaign of provocation. What they will do is send their navy to arrest the ships that are conducting, to intercept the ships that are conducting these drilling exercises. And they'll do that with the ships, the oil rigs. They will do that with the fishing vessels and whatnot.
So what options Guyana has?
Guyana has got to go to the United Nations. And basically the Minister of Foreign Affairs is doing a good job. He's right now, as next week as a matter of fact, he'll be attending the CARICOM Heads of Government Summit to be held in Barbados. And he's going to be putting forward the Guyana case and trying to get the CARICOM nations on board. And I have every belief that almost all the CARICOM nations will support our particular position because it is fair and equitable and consistent with international law.
Now, do you have anything more to say on the Guyana-Venezuelan border issue?
Yeah, we will get the support not only of CARICOM, we will get the support even of the Organization of American States, even though most of them are Spanish-speaking countries.
Yeah, I know now they have the Commonwealth countries are also looking at that.
Yes, that's right, the Commonwealth countries. So we can get our supporters in Africa, in Asia, in India, and so forth to support our claim. Because remember, most of these countries were once colonies like Guyana.
Britain.
Of Britain. And so there have been border disputes. Other countries have claimed that the borders that Britain established were not fair and equitable. So they themselves are potential victims. So they're going to support us. And not only the Commonwealth, even the Latin American countries like Colombia and Brazil have been totally disgusted by Venezuela's claim. As a matter of fact, Venezuela is now making claims against some of the land of Colombia, and they have borders with Brazil. They're not going to mess around too much with Brazil because Brazil is a military superpower.
Yeah. Okay, Collin, Guyana has also recently seen the return of a claim from Suriname for its territory. And Brazil also did the same. So Guyana has border issues with Brazil
and
Suriname as well. How and Venezuela. So how does this play out in international law, and what are the repercussions for Guyana?
Well, Guyana's disadvantage is that it borders three mainland territories. There is Venezuela, Brazil, and Suriname. So, however, the Venezuelan claim has been the most conspicuous and aggressive in terms of enforcement. But we have the same principles to satisfy with regard to Suriname. The claims in Suriname by the Surinamese government are less well documented. The Venezuelan claim is perhaps the most outrageous in terms of the allegations, because it was well documented that the borders were drawn between Guyana and Venezuela. The borders with Suriname and Brazil have not been as clearly defined, especially the Suriname claim.
Right.
So that will have to be assessed on its own merits.
Okay, Collin. Let us move on a little bit into the role of the diaspora here. and they're in the interaction of the Guyanese diaspora and the economic, political, and social development back home. What are some of your plans or advice, if you want to say, for political and economic and social transformation of Guyana now that we have a new government in place?
Yes.
I know you were, as you said earlier, you're a member of the nationalist movement of 1953, so you have a lot of experience with that. And then you became a member of the People's Progressive Party, and then recently you have moved on to join and support the APNU+AFC Coalition Government, which is in power right now.
Yes.
So how do you see your plans for economic, social, and political transformation of Guyana assisting really the new government?
All right, let me just clarify one point. It's true I was a member of the PPP. This was a long time ago. However, I was thoroughly disgusted by some of their policies over the last 23 years. And I let them know this, and I withdrew from the party since even before 1992. You know, I saw the policies that they're pursuing were racist. It was corrupt, a lot of corruption. There was a lot of incompetence and so forth. So as a result of that, I withdrew from the party, and I let them know that I totally disagreed with their positions. And so I am the chairperson of an organization now in Brooklyn. It's called the Guyanese American Patriotic Forum. And we meet almost every week in Brooklyn, and we help to draft certain documents having to do with the economic, social, and political transformation of Guyana.
So, I mean, tell our Guyanese viewers or the viewers of this program a little bit more about that entity. How can they become involved if they would like to? How can they participate? And what are the criteria for membership of your organization?
Okay. Thank you very much, Rudy. We have looked at
you can probably look at our viewers.
We have looked at the scene in Guyana, especially the economic situation in Guyana, the political and the economic situation, and we have been heartened by it. What we have seen is this group here, the APNU and AFC group. They have formed this coalition, and Rudy, it is the first time in my lifetime that parties, the two major parties, which appeal to different sections of the population, have decided to come forward and establish a coalition government. In 1953, what we had individuals who were basically Afro-Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese coming forward to form one political movement. That was the PPP. You had people like Forbes Burnham, you have Ashton Chase, you had Sidney King and so forth, Chetty Jagan, Dr. Latchman Singh, Jaina Ryan Singh. These were individuals. It was not a coalition movement. These were a coalition of individuals. What we have now is a coalition of parties coming together to form a coalition government. And it is a source of pride and jubilation that this is taking place in this country, which has endured many years of racial polarization. For the first time, we have the substantial prospect of creating a one Guyana movement, Rudy. And what we have seen is we have certain recommendations to this coalition. For example, that it should come out with a common statement of principles indicating what they intend to do with this coalition.
No, Collin, can I interrupt you here? The question was that your organization, you mentioned that there's an organization which is preparing some kind of paper, and I ask, how can our viewers or people who are interested become members of their organization?
Okay, what you can do is, my name, as I said, is Collin Moore. I'm the chairperson, and you can reach me at 718-643-0285.
Your telephone number is on the screen and your
telephone
email
number
address.
and my email address. You can reach me at my telephone number or my email address if you're desirous of becoming a part of this movement. I'm very, very enthused about this movement because
Is it a registered organization or is it just an ad hoc group?
No, it's, as a matter of fact, this very week I am going to put in the papers to incorporate it as a 501c3 organization. So it's not an ad hoc group. This is an established organization. We have been meeting for months now. We have got constitution and bylaws. We have got statements, memorandum of understanding, and so forth. And we intend to meet with members of the government. We have put forward a plan for the political, social, and economic transformation that we have sent to them.
Can you discuss that plan with us, with our viewers, a little bit more?
Yes. What the
some
plan
of the
does,
main aspects of the plan.
yes. Okay, we've divided it into three sections. Plan for the political, social, and economic transformation of Guyana. The political plan builds on what President Granger has called the One Guyana concept. In other words, it's a statement of intent, it's a statement, a mission statement about what the coalition intends to do. They intend to create what is called an inclusionary democracy, in which groups representing all sections of the population, representing Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, and not only just the present members of the coalition. They will extend this to members of the PPP and any other group to come together to form this concept of one Guyana. And one of the principles is inclusionary democracy. In other words, they will set up things like procurement commission and various commissions in the National Assembly that can deal with every aspect of Guyana's governance. And one of the things they need to do, for example, they have been disturbed about the whole system under which contracts have been awarded. Contracts have been awarded.
Well, that comes under the Procurement Commission.
Procurement Commission.
So they are about to establish it. I think they already have some names for that commission.
Yes, yes.
And it's going to be established anytime now.
Right, and that's one of the proposal, the suggestion, the Procurement Commission. Another committee of...
Well, they had that in their campaign...
literature, right.
Yeah, campaign...
Yes. And one of the things that we've recommended also that they set up as soon as possible a charter, a constitutional reform committee to reform the Constitution of Guyana.
Well, they already said that. Those things were there before now.
Yeah, but
so it's not you're not recommending that.
It's not new.
They themselves had that. The AFC, APNU had that in their manifesto.
But we've tried to be fairly specific. We don't deal in rhetoric. We deal in very specific plans of how things
so you're fine-tuning those.
Fine-tuning them. That's right. We have looked at the Constitution and see that it is too president-oriented. In other words, the imperial presidency. We have recommended specifically that some of the powers that should be taken away from the president, for example, the idea that the president is above the law, that he cannot be prosecuted for crimes committed during his administration. We think that this is absolute nonsense, that they should do away with that. They should do away with the idea that the president is in control not only of the executive, but of the legislature arms of government. We want a separation between the legislative and the executive. We want to make sure, for example, that in the legislature they should set up committees, oversight committees like they have in the Congress of the United States, where every issue that comes before the National Assembly, contracts or whatever, will see the light of day, that there will be committees appointed to conduct oversight on these activities. Somebody wants to do a contract, the contract should be published in the Gazette and aired, and they should call in these individuals who are part of this corporation and subject them to questioning, these types of things, oversight and accountability and transparency.
On the economic front, what are some of the things that you have recommended in your plan for economic transformation?
Well, we are very excited, especially with the economic. One of the things we have noticed is, for example, that there have been plans for Brazil to get involved in what is called the ERISA program, IIRISA, which is the initiative for the development of the infrastructure of South America. And Brazil, and there's a memorandum of understanding between Guyana and Brazil, under which Brazil will build a superhighway between Lethem and Linden, and then we'll continue with the highway from Linden to Georgetown. What Brazil would like to do also, Brazil has indicated that it will dredge the estuary of the Demerara and Berbice rivers so that large ocean-going vessels can come into Georgetown and New Amsterdam and dock at the harbors and transact business. This is especially helpful in the rice and sugar industry. It will permit bulk loading of sugar and bulk loading of rice on ocean-going vessels so that they can transport these products to the Caribbean and North America and Europe. And this is going to be particularly helpful because Brazil wants to export a lot of its industrial products through Guyana, through Georgetown, which will cut down on their transportation costs, you know. And they are prepared to establish an auto assembly plant at Linden, in which they will bring the component parts of the cars and so forth and send it at Linden, and then Linden workers and so forth will actually assemble these cars and then put them on trolleys and so forth to be exported. This will create thousands of jobs in Linden because they realize that Linden has the infrastructure for development. It's already been dealing with bauxite and all these engineering types of activities. So, the Lethem to Linden highway, and then the establishment of these deep water ports in Georgetown and New Amsterdam will transform, you know, tremendous. But that's only the beginning, Rudy, of a total infrastructure development program. We would like to see the government and Brazil continue in building a road from Kwakwani in the Berbice River, which is a bauxite port, to link up Kwakwani through Aichuni to Linden, and then from Linden to Madhya, and Madhya to Bartica, and then from Bartica to the Kurupung, you know. And
yes,
we would like to see a whole.
But Collin, I studied economics also, so what I'm looking at here is the economics of all, the feasibility.
Right.
We can build roads, yes. Theoretically, it's good to talk about building roads and having as much roads as possible. But roads would need not only to be built, but they also need to be maintained.
Right.
The maintenance of roads is a very costly thing to do. So if we do not have the economic activities to pay for the maintenance of the roads, then everything will be covered with forestation again, bush.
Right.
And the roads will be built, but then it will be covered because people don't use it that often.
Right.
Guyana doesn't have a large enough population to access these roads on a regular basis. So these are some of the factors you should take also into consideration, and not just building roads. It sounds good to build roads and build everything.
Good
Then
question.
how are we going to consume?
Well, good question, because people ask, first of all, how are you going to get the money to build this series of roads? Where is Guyana going to get the resources? And that question is that Brazil has approached the IDB and the World Bank and so forth, and they have commitments because Brazil has a lot of collateral, you know, and Brazil has undertaken to be the primary investor in these activities, and they have used their vast mineral resources as collateral to obtain these loans. So Guyana is going to be a junior partner in terms of actually raising the capital, but nevertheless, she will be a primary beneficiary because, as I said, the ports of Georgetown and New Amsterdam are going to be advantageous to Brazil to use to export their goods.
Absolutely.
Right. And in terms of the development of Brazil, the good question, what we have recommended in our proposals is that when they build these roads, they should settle individuals, both from the coastlines and from the hinterland, on these roads. You give them plots of land, and you set up agro-processing centers. You, for example, diversify. They're not going to just only plant rice, but things like dairy farming, things like market farming, and so forth, citrus fruits and whatnot. There has been studies done about the feasibility of these types of activities. So you have a group of individuals who will actually construct the roads that will employ thousands of people, then individuals who will actually settle on these roads and carry out farming activities.
Semi-industrial projects.
That's right. And then, and this will be of benefit not only to the young Afro-Indo-Guyanese on the coastlands, but to the Amerindian population in the interior, who would obviously have first preference, because a lot of these roads will be built in the interior, where the Amerindian population will directly benefit.
Yeah, that sounds very good, Collin, but I hope that your plans, or whoever is formulating the plan, will take into consideration the necessity for the modification or the adjustment of the appropriate, relevant legislation in Guyana to allow for more export-oriented manufacturing to be done in Guyana. As you probably know, I did international economics,
yes, I know
some of the issues that Guyana has been facing is the non-compliance or the inability to comply with certain international conventions in terms of the acquisition, storage, and distribution of chemical products, like fertilizers and things that are necessary for industrial production. Machinery and equipment also would come under that, in that category of things that we do not have the mechanisms or the legislation even in place to allow for a smooth flow of technology, machinery and equipment, and certain products, including chemical products, to come into Guyana to enhance or to develop the manufacturing sector. That's why our manufacturing sector is still lagging a lot behind. So I hope that your organization, these plans, can also take these aspects into consideration.
Right, we do, we have. And as a matter of fact, do you know, Rudy, that we have a large expanse of land between the coastlands and the Rupununi savannas called the intermediate savannas, especially in Berbice and so forth, you know. And under the previous government, there were memorandums of understanding executed between the Guyana government and certain manufacturing companies in Trinidad, Macalani, for example, to develop citrus. Nice. You know, thousands of cans of citrus and whatnot, and they were supposed to set up a plant, a cogeneration facility, they call it, that would utilize the bagasse from the Skeldon sugar factory, you know, into this
ethanol.
Ethanol, that's correct. And well, all these memorandums are on the table, and they also had plans to do livestock farming in intermediate savannas and so forth. So we would like to urge the the appropriate ministers of natural resources and whatnot, to implement these memorandums. Don't put them on the desk and let it just catch cobweb. Implement these things, and we are prepared to take down investors from the United States, investors from the diaspora, and investors from the United States to get them involved in the development of these particular types of industries. We need to do it. I am absolutely convinced that if Guyana can implement these proposals, Rudy, we will convert our country from an agriculturally dependent country into a massive manufacturing and industrial export. That's
oriented,
right. Yeah, that's correct. And Brazil is prepared to establish a 350 megawatt hydroelectric project on the Mazaruni River. Even apart from the Amalia Falls, people have been talking about that. They have a bigger project in the Mazaruni to set up hydroelectric power. And we have so many waterfalls and cataracts and whatnot. We have the potential to be a tremendous developer of hydroelectric power. And then this plus the oil resources that we've got in the Stabroek Block. Guyana's future to me looks very bright and dazzling. And
yes, indeed. It sounds very interesting, and I am confident that Guyana will become one of the more developed and progressive countries in the Western Hemisphere. Collin, let us come back to our interview here and focus a little bit more on the role of the diaspora in the current new situation in Guyana. We have a new government now embracing and actually inviting people from the diaspora to come and participate in the developmental processes that are taking place. What recommendations do you have for the people in the diaspora, our viewers of this program, and also for the new administration in Guyana? With your expertise and your experience, you've been in this political and social development business, legal business for a long time. And I'm sure you have the knowledge and the expertise to select specific advice that you might want our new leaders to hear.
Well, the good thing about it, Rudy, is the leaders, both President Granger and Prime Minister Nagamutu, as you know, have visited the diaspora here on quite a few occasions. And both of them are committed to the idea of establishing a close relationship between the diaspora and the homeland.
Yeah, but commitment is one thing. Getting it done is another thing. How would you advise them to get this thing done instead of leaving it at the commitment stage?
I know. Well, one of the first things we need to do is establish a website. There's already a website, a diaspora, Guyanese diaspora.
Tell our viewers,
website.
What's the website?
Or if they contact my office, I forgot the...
okay, whenever you get it,
yes, I'm going to send it.
You're going to share it with us.
I'm going to share it, right. Because President Ramatata, to his credit, did establish a website.
Oh, that's the same website you're talking about? That website is not functioning.
Oh, yeah, it has
I
some problem.
attempted to use that website a long time ago. I submitted some information there, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Someone called me from Guyana, and they told me we had a short conversation, and we're expecting more. And that was it.
Yeah, I tried it up to last night. It gets some new, but it's stuck. It's not moving.
It's not
they need to repair it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it needs a lot of work to
we
be
don't
done.
have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there.
Absolutely.
All we have to do is repair it and make sure. So I'm going to speak to some guys who have the technical knowledge about seeing what they can do to repair this website. And
what about yourself? Do you intend to go and help the Guyana government? You have all this expertise, Collin. Are you going to go back to Guyana? You planning to go back there and be, very helpful and more meaningfully?
Well, let me say, I have a business here. I have a successful law firm. I am prepared to pack my bags tomorrow morning and go back to Guyana if the Guyanese government is prepared to sit down and to discuss with me some of the roles that I can play. I have a lot of ideas.
And so far they have not been talking to you?
So they have not been talking seriously, I mean, they've said hello.
And it's just seriously what you mean?
For example...
or to call you in for a discussion?
For discussion. For example, I have taught international law at Brooklyn College. I have ideas about things like the exclusive economic zone and so forth. And I am prepared tomorrow, Rudy, to litigate this matter before the International Commission of Jurists. And I'm prepared to litigate this matter before any international tribunals. Because litigation is what I do. In spite of my physical disabilities, I am prepared to go into court on the issue of Guyana, and I am prepared to give my life towards this particular thing. I will do it for a very, very reasonable fee. I mean, you don't have to, but of course I'm going to do research, and I'm prepared to litigate this matter. I got to be paid for my services. But I'm not, I'm not here, asking for. But I'm saying that I've had over 40 years of litigation experience, and I have won some fairly big cases, including the Central Park jogger case. And I'm saying to the government, if you're serious, I am prepared to use whatever expertise I have to help Guyana in this particular issue where her national security is being threatened. I am not.
You mean Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Okay.
I am not a diplomat. I'm not into sweet words. I am into, I'll see you in court. Let's go in court and let's decide. Let's present this before a jury, or let's present this before a tribunal and let them decide. And I am convinced that Guyana will prevail if they have an individual who's prepared to do this. And we have individuals with tremendous talent, diplomats, people like Mohammed Shahabuddin, and all these individuals, Rashidi Jackson, all of and Rain Sanali and whatnot, and Rudy Sanali, and these guys would be prepared to give me the necessary paperwork, and we can litigate this matter. This is one thing. I am prepared to take delegations of investors to Guyana anytime. I'm not asking them to pay my fare or anything. I will pay my fare. I will pay my hotel bills. But I just want them to sit down.
You want them to receive you.
That's right. That's
and
right.
to entertain you.
That's right.
So
I don't want to go to the Pegasus and have a nice time and just eat and drink.
So why don't you write an official letter explaining, what you're looking for.
Right.
And let them respond.
As I said,
have you done so?
No, I haven't done that, but I'm prepared to do that.
Yes, write the
I don't want them
officially.
I wouldn't want them to pay by fare or to pay by hotel bills. I'll do that, but at least I want some individuals who are prepared to listen to what I say.
Yes,
and then to do something and implement it.
You want to set up an appointment to discuss certain issues. So you can list the number of issues or the types of issues you want to discuss.
That's right.
Specific issues, and then they will be able to, I'm sure, those to the respective government authorities, and agencies, and individuals, and then they can set up a time where you can attend for various meetings with each one of these persons.
That's good. That's all I want.
I recommend that you write him a letter officially and send a copy to the Prime Minister, maybe the President, copy them also, so that they can be aware of what's going on.
That's right.
I'm sure you're going to get an answer.
All right.
I wish you good luck. I think you have very good ideas and you have expertise that Guyana can benefit from. And Mr. Collin, now we have the opportunity, we are coming towards the end of the interview, to look at the viewers of this program in the eye, the diaspora, the Guyanese viewers, and tell them your message. What advice you have for the people of Guyana, the government of Guyana. Please, go right ahead.
I think that we are at a very crucial crossroads right now, Rudy. And I am convinced that Guyana, great things can occur in Guyana. We can have an entire transformation of our native land. Right now, this is the moment. And I am reminded of a poem by the great Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore in Gitanjali, where he says, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where words come forth from the depth of the soul, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my people awake. So I ask them to implement the words of Rabindranath Tagore, that we have an opportunity to create a new society. We have the major ethnic groups coming together in one coalition movement. And now that our country is threatened by a foreign force, this is the time when all Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, should rally together in the defense of our precious motherland. We have been in existence as a country, an independent country, only for 49 years. Next year we will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Guyana's independence. So each of you Guyanese in the diaspora, I'm appealing to you to do something to help your country. Your country is crying out for help right now. Whatever contribution you can make, be it in terms of resources, be it in terms of going back to your country, be it in terms of sending something. I appeal to you from the bottom of my heart. Do it. Your country needs you right now. Make some effort to defend our motherland. I think it was an Englishman who wrote, I can't remember this particular thing, but that patriotism is the greatest emotion that we can have. The commitment to the country that gave you birth and life.
Yeah, the poem probably, Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori.
Yes,
it is sweet and fitting to serve and die for your country.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Breathes there a man with soul so dead, who never to himself had said, this is my own, my native land.
Okay, thank you very much, Collin, for that insightful message there. And I want to thank you very much for coming to our program Inside Guyana. On behalf of the management and staff of ITV, our cameraman and our producer, I say until next time, thank you for watching the program Inside Guyana. This is yours truly, Dr. Rudy Jadoopat, wishing you all the best.
Wishing you all the best.